Welcome everybody to the 2024 Annual Assembly. Welcome members, welcome coaches, welcome athletes, welcome team leaders, welcome board members. Thank you everybody for giving of your time throughout the year and for giving of your time this evening. I welcome you. I thank all of you for the warm welcome I've received over the past year. We've got some great information for you tonight and some great plans for the upcoming year and the upcoming 5 years. So with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Matt, who's going to play and address our board president. Unfortunately, is unable to make it. He is on an airplane right now. So he pre-recorded his address to the group.
Good evening. My name is Matt Pierre. Thanks for joining us. I'm sorry I can't be with you in person tonight. It's my pleasure to serve as president of the NWBA Board of Directors. I'd like to spend some time giving you some thoughts on the recent season we just closed out and offering some perspective on where we're headed as an organization. The 2023-24 season was a year of growth for our sport. Historic membership numbers in terms of individuals and new teams, with highs in membership for the junior division, women's division, and our pilot military division. We saw growth in new programs across new communities and new levels of play with some of our established programs as well. We raised the bar across our national championship tournaments and had a historic number of teams participating this year across most of them. This is the fourth straight season we've seen an increase in number of registered officials, and we appreciate all that they do for our game. Importantly, we are looking at our game through a much more inclusive lens. For the first time in our history, we inducted an all-female Hall of Fame class and our very first Black female member to that. For the first time in our history as well, we inducted a female coach to our Coach of the Year honors in our juniors division. We saw strong growth in the number of athletes of color and the number of women and veterans playing our game as well. Mid-season at the Parapan American Games, we saw both of our national teams punch their tickets to Paris for this year's Paralympic Games. We appreciate all of their hard work and dedication and the staffs and are excited for their opportunity this summer. More specifics on these will be shared later during the presentation tonight. Now let's turn our attention to where we're headed. We are energized about our future and the increased impact we can have for our members to further grow our game across the U.S. We have strengthened our team this year. A year ago, we brought in David Schaefer into our CEO role. You'll hear more from David tonight, but we were thrilled with the skill set, passion, and leadership he brings to our organization. We have the best staff in the business with Brandon, Tina, and Matt, and are excited to have added Eric recently to our team. We have an outstanding board of directors whose governance, insights, and significant support continue to make a critical impact to the organization. And we're excited to be welcoming several new members to the board shortly. The board of directors and executive staff, we took on a collective effort to develop a roadmap for the NWBA over the next 5 years. This being our lead up or road to the 2028 LA Paralympic Games, a generational opportunity to increase awareness here in the US and grow our game by leaps and bounds. This process started last spring as we issued our membership's experience survey to solicit your feedback and better understand what's working and where can we improve. A professional moderator was used to help advise and administer the process. The board and staff had countless virtual exchanges and convened last summer for in-person focused working sessions to finalize our plans in Colorado Springs. Some of the outcomes of the strategic plan was the revision of our mission statement, vision statement, and organizational values to better align how we are currently operating and serving our members as we look to advance. The detailed plan and priorities will be shared a little bit later in tonight's management report. We continue to make excellent progress building new sponsors and partnerships to help secure the resources needed to support our members and continue to grow the game. A special thank you to all these organizations, many existing, some new alike, for their support this year. While progress has been made, this is one of the most important levers we have to hit our strategic plan, needing to almost triple our annual operating budget. through incremental contributions, sponsorships, and grants. We're in a great financial position right now. Mike will talk more about that in detailing the strength in that position. And finally, a big thank you to the thousands of volunteers that make this work. We are truly a volunteer-driven organization. Your passions, your time, your commitments are what allows us to have the impact we do across our members within the communities that we are present. If you have the time, talent, or treasure to share with us, we would love to add you to the team. Overall, a great year for the NWBA, but I believe our best is yet to come. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Doug Jones, and I serve as one of the board members for the organization, and I'm going to take us through the process here where we'll have the opportunity to make some decisions and vote on 11 different items. We will be framing those items and the process for you, and then in a few slides you will have a QR code that is made available for you to use to get you to the SurveyMonkey tool that will permit you to cast your votes. You'll be able to do that during the body of the meeting, and as we reach a point nearer to the end of the meeting, we will close voting, and then we will share some results from the voting. So those 11 things that we have include the confirmation of a board of director member and voting on 10 proposed bylaw amendments. So the first one, it was a previous slide, which is voting to confirm Margaret Strand, who is the candidate who is running unopposed for the one available elected board of director position. You will have seen on that slide that there is a link to her resume and her, so you can see information about her extensive background within the organization. Then the next thing is that we do move into voting on, considering and voting on some bylaw revisions. I want to thank everybody who put a lot of work into creating these 10 different proposed bylaw changes. The NWBA uses a very clear process for handling these types of proposals. We understand that it's important when we make revisions and additions to our organizational bylaws, and we do it in this organized manner so that we can be efficient and that we can move relatively expeditiously through this type of a process. This year, all 10 of the proposals were submitted by NWBA management and staff. Many of these were proposed to keep us and bring us in congruence with the US OPC, which is our NGB. So it always is important that we're compliant and congruent with the US OPC. Others of these proposed revisions were done primarily for clarity and better organizational structure within our governance documents. In some cases, it was simply moving the issue or the item from a bylaw to a guideline and to other places within our governing documents so that we have better clarity for people who are trying to understand our organizations. As these 10 items were proposed and prepared, in most cases, committee chairs and athlete representatives were consulted so that we could have a clear understanding of the implications of these changes, and that we had as much input from people who are very centrally involved in the areas with which these changes may have come from. Normally, though, it's important to note that these types of proposals could be submitted by anyone, including delegates, NWBA leadership, or by NWBA committees like the Judicial Committee, Classification Committee, and Governance Committee. Once the initial proposal is submitted by the published deadline, which this year was March 21st, that's 60 days ahead of this meeting, the Governance Committee reviews the proposals, and in some cases, typically rare, they may seek clarification from the entity submitting the proposal if there's a need to make sure that the proposal is congruent with other proposals, to make sure that it doesn't run afoul of our safe sport expectations and other items that are at the core of our organization. So if that does happen, edits can be made as a friendly amendment up until the point that they are published and posted for the delegate body review, which again this year was March 21st. So everyone on this call and others who may not be on the call have had the last 60 days to be looking at these, to be raising questions, and to be discussing with one another. So we hope that most of people have availed themselves of that opportunity, because that's necessary for us to be able to work through this process. Once these proposals are submitted for delegate body review, there's only two options that we can have tonight. It's important for people to understand this. We can, and we'll do each of these proposals 1 through 10, but they can either be approved or they can be rejected. We cannot at this meeting revise any of these proposals and edit them and vote on them with changes in this meeting. Any changes made would require that they go back through the process, be reviewed by governance committee, and reposted for the delegate body to have access to them for 60 days ahead of any vote. So, so if there are proposed bylaw changes among these 10, which people do find unacceptable as they're currently written, the delegate body can reject them, and then they can be resubmitted next year with the changes. Alternatively, they could be approved this year and modified again next year. So, so it's just important that people understand that today it's yes or no for these. We are prepared to respond to questions if people may have them about the proposals, but those should typically be associated with understanding what the goal is, what the rationale is, and should not, for the purposes of today's call, be suggestions for different proposals. So when you look at these on your PowerPoint presentation, you can see they are numbered 1 through 10. They are clickable links so that you can see, if you click on that link, what the summary is for that proposal, and you can see a bulleted list of why that proposal was submitted. So you see them. We have one in Article 3, which is a mission, core values, and purpose section. Proposal 2 is within membership section and eligibility. Proposal 3 is the Board of Directors meeting revisions. Proposal 4, also Board of Directors meetings revision. Proposal 5 is an adjustment to the bylaws associated with this, the annual assembly. Article 6, Board of Directors, and then Proposal 7 is committee composition. Proposal 8, Athletes Advisory Council, and Proposal 9, the USOPC Athletes Advisory Council. And then finally, the 10th proposal is in Article 14, and that's grievance procedures. So with the hope that people have read through these, and if there are questions or clarifications that people are seeking, we do have a few minutes to be able to do that. And then once we've completed that, you can go to the SurveyMonkey and vote to approve or reject each of these proposals between now and later in the meeting when we close voting. So that's where we are with this. Are there any individuals that do have clarifying questions that they would like to surface now? Okay, super. The next slide is the slide that does have the QR code, so that people may open their ballot and begin to be able to cast their votes if they would like. And we will also, while that is happening, move on to to the next portion of our agenda, which is the season recap, which Brandon McBain, who is our Chief Operating Officer, will take us through.
Awesome. Thanks, Doug. Appreciate it. Now we get to talk about some fun stuff. Awesome season. And we're going to kind of highlight all the great things that happened this 2023-24 season. Next slide. This season was truly a historic one for the NWBA across many membership figures. We had the largest amount of teams in the history of the NWBA with 233 teams that registered this year. We had record high in the junior division. The last high in the junior division was 86 teams, and that was last year, and then also in the 2019-2020 season. This year, we had 96 teams in the junior division, so 10 more teams than our record high. We also saw an increase in our number of military division teams and women's division teams. So super awesome to see growth in some divisions that, one, we can have some lifelong members within the junior division, and then some divisions that have a lot of opportunity to grow. We saw 2,346 athletes register with us this year. Record number of junior athletes, 883. Also, within the female athletes, we had 506, but to note, there was a record high 226 junior athletes that registered this year. So awesome to see all the young female athletes coming into our sport. And then last but not least, really awesome to see that our active duty and veteran participants for athletes was up to 163 athletes. Next slide. So some cool programming that we did this year. And if you didn't catch all of these, I can see why, because we had a lot of programming going on. We were fortunate to have a strong working relationship that continues with the Paralyzed Veterans America, hosting a couple of different camps this past fall. Those camps were help funded through a Veteran Affairs Adaptive Sports Grant. And so really awesome partnership that we had there hosting those two camps. We also newly partnered with Wounded Warrior Project to offer a camp in October for level 2 warriors within their program to provide further instruction in our sport. So awesome new partnership and opportunity that we provided there. And then last but not least, again, we were fortunate through funding through the Craig H. Nielsen grant to host a NWBA development camp in August of 23 at the U.S. Performance Center. And it was a great mix of our NWBA membership that were able to attend and further hone their game. And I'd just like to say thank you to all the camp instructors and volunteers that made all of these camps possible. Really appreciate their time and effort. Next slide. Awesome. Well, now we get to celebrate our national championships this season. And to kind of kick things off was our intercollegiate division. So first off, we had our intercollegiate women's championships in Tuscaloosa, March 8th through the 9th. And I'd like to congratulate University of Alabama women on their 5th consecutive national title. Followed then by our intercollegiate men's tournament that was held in Marshall, Minnesota, March 14th through the 16th. And congratulations to University of Wisconsin-Whitewater on their title and adding to their total of 14 for their program. Next slide. And then we got to the junior division, which was held April 5th through the 7th in Richmond, Virginia. We had our largest juniors tournament in the history of the NWBA with 52 teams present. Super awesome. setting, anyone that was there. And just want to congratulate all the teams that were there, but namely call out the accomplishments of the Prep National Champions, the ATX, and then congratulatory to DASA Rolling Rams on their back-to-back Varsity Invitational Tournament Championships, and then also to the Lakeshore Lakers, who captured back-to-back Varsity National Championships. So congratulations to those champions. Next slide.
So what's it gonna?
And then the following weekend in Richmond, April 12th through the 14th, we showcased a full field of 48 teams in the adult division, which sometimes can be tough. So it's awesome we were able to fill out, and we were able to crown 3 champions shown here. Congrats to the D3 Tucson Lobos for their national championship. And then congrats to the Division II LA Clipper chairman on their championship. And then congratulations to the D1 champion, the Dallas Wheelchair Mavs. So awesome competition in the adult weekend, and congratulations. And hopefully everyone enjoyed that weekend that was present. I know it was a highly attended event as well. Next slide. And then to wrap up our national championship series, April 26th to 28th, we were in Fort Wayne, Indiana, which was the largest field of teams for our women's division with 14. And then we increased it on our inaugural military division tournament, having 6 teams for this year's tournament. I'd like to congratulate the Wausau Marquette Eagles on their 3rd straight title and 5th title in 6 years. And then also congrats to the Wolfpack Vets on capturing the 2nd ever national championship in the military division. Next slide. And now you'll see, we just really like to thank all of the hosts and contributors for this national championship series. You'll see all of the host organizations that are listed on the left: University of Alabama, Southwest Minnesota State, Sportable, Turnstone. On behalf of the NWBA Board of Directors, National Office staff, and all of leadership, we just like to express our gratitude to the hospitality and the support that you and your local communities offered us during the National Championship Series. Thank you to all the tournament personnel. Thank you to all division leadership, classifiers, floor officials, volunteers. And last but not least, thank you for all of you that might have attended one of these as a fan or a patron. Appreciate you sharing the passion and coming out and enjoying these events and seeing the awesome sport that is. And so thank you so much to everyone that made these events possible. Next slide. So as Matt mentioned earlier, we had a historic class for our 2024 NWBA Hall of Fame class. We inducted an all-female class with 3 outstanding individuals. Dr. Andrea Woodson-Smith, she's been a member over 2 decades, was a member of the 2012 Paralympic team, and been on the national team from 2003 to 2012. Her achievements include a gold medal at the 2010 World Championships, and then also another gold at the Pan American Games. So congrats to Dr. Andrea Woodson-Smith. And then the other athlete getting inducted was Dr. Darlene Hunter. She has had a wealth of experience on and off the court within the NWBA, being a national team member from 2010 to 2016, and then again a second stint from 2019 to 21. She was a co-captain for our Tokyo Paralympic team that secured a bronze medal, and she also secured a gold medal in the Rio Paralympics. She includes also gold medals that in the Pan Games, and just quite an accomplished career on the court for Dr. Darlene Hunter. And then last inductee was Cheryl Lady Vines, that got inducted as a contributor. Her journey in the NWBA, for those who didn't know, started in 1972, and she supported the Valley Freewheelers in an instrumental role in the mid-70s, and then took on supporting the Arkansas Rolling Razorbacks, which she participated in 14 consecutive postseason tournaments, and which they had captured 5 national championships during that time. Cheryl has also contributed off the court in becoming an NWBA classifier, establishing NWBA annual awards that are the Wayne Konishi Scholarship and the Bill and Julie Duncan Good Guy Awards. So thank you, Cheryl, for your contributions to our sport. And make sure to look out. These 3 ladies are actually going to be invited to the Naismith Hall of Fame enshrinement that'll be occurring later this fall. So again, join me in congratulating them on their accomplishments. And I'm super excited to see that they're all properly represented within our Hall of Fame. Next slide. Now to just talk about a couple other awards and recognition from this season. Want to just recognize the Bill and Julie Duncan Good Guy Award recipient, Wayne Bozeman. For those who, he was instrumental in running the Tampa Bay Strong Dogs program. Unfortunately, we lost Wayne this last fall, and pictured here, Cheryl Vines is presenting it to a couple members of the Tampa Bay Strong Dogs program. So thank you, Wayne, for your contributions in recognizing you for this. And then on the right, you'll see a picture of the Timothy J. Nugent Academic All-Americans. And notably, I'd like to highlight the team captain and scholarship winner, Jonathan Smith of the Charlotte Rolling Nuggets, pictured there in the center of the photo. So congratulations to them for not only their accomplishments on the court, but for their accomplishments off the court. And then last but not least, I'd like to give this opportunity to give a special thanks to our volunteer leadership with NWBA. Matt kind of hit on it earlier. These individuals serve on various committees and they give us so much time and effort. I'd like to give a special thanks to Daryl Hargraves for concluding his term as president of the Intercollegiate Division. And I also like to give a special thank you to Dan Ferreira for concluding his final term on the NWBA Board of Directors. So as Matt said, I say it in a little different way, but just remember we're a member-driven organization, but we're led by volunteers. So thank you all of the volunteers that help lead us and guide us and make advancements for our organization and our sport. So thank you so much. Next slide. And last, we want to provide an opportunity to give a remembrance to an individual that is probably one of our most esteemed members, Marvin Lapicola. He unfortunately passed away this spring, and he leads a void in our organization and in the hearts of all that knew him within the NWBA. Marvin was a pillar of the NWBA for 70 years. He was a freshman on the first University of Illinois Grizz Kids National Championship team in 1953. He was also a member of the U.S. Paralympic team in 1964 for the Tokyo Paralympics. He was selected for various national or all tournament teams at the NWBA or NWBT during his 20-year playing career with the Chicago Sidewinders. Marvelous Marvin, as known, served also as the NWBA Executive Committee Vice President from 1970 to 75 and President from 1976 to 2000, having an unparalleled 30-year tenure in the organization's history. His contributions to wheelchair basketball and the NWBA continue to impact lives in a positive way. And for that, Marvin will never be forgotten within the NWBA family. So With that, my section has concluded, and I am going to pass off the next presentation to Mike Gotze, our treasurer.
Good evening, everyone. Hope you're excited about talking about numbers. And if you think numbers don't matter, then why do you look at the scoreboard during a game? Numbers matter. All right, next slide. We're going to quickly look at, what everybody looks at when they look at financials. Did we make money or not? We did last year, $181,000. There's going to be some clarifications with that in just a second, but you'll see there's a trend from 2019, which is on the right side of the screen, over to 2023. We have a positive trend, with the exception of 2020, which is when COVID happened, the world stopped. We had, as the first note suggests, there's a massive decrease in USOPC funding, a massive decrease in membership revenue. So we're not there anymore, right? So it's a roller coaster ride. We were in a free for all before that. We came out of that in 2019. We went into a corkscrew. That was COVID. We didn't know what was up or down. And since then, we've been making good progress. If you were on last year's meeting, 2022 was a stressful year. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a second. The reason that revenue increased from 2022 to 23, couple of reasons. There was an increase in team member revenue. As you will remember from Matt's message earlier on, there was record numbers of teams, record numbers of athletes, and record numbers of non-athletes. That combined with, there was a $100,000 increase from the USOPC specifically for our under 25 team, which was well spent, and they got a good return on that investment because our ladies won gold in Thailand at the World Championship. If you're looking at the numbers back from 19 and 20 and 2021, there was 2 PPP loans in there that actually made the loss in 2020 better and created a loss situation into a gain for us in 2021. If you can pop to the next screen, we'll talk about cash. Cash is king. So the cash flow in 2023 was much improved over prior years. That is generally one of the pinnacle points of the financial health of an organization. It's a direct result of financial measures that we put in place in 2019 and 2020. If you remember, from 7 years leading into 2019, we had lost money every single year. It accumulated to $1.4 million. So we needed to do something. We did that in 2019, and then COVID happened. The same measures that we put in place helped us navigate COVID. So now we're cautiously optimistic about our financial future. As you'll recall, last year we had gone 6 months in 2022 and then an additional 3 months in 2023 without a paid CEO. That was very intentional on our part because we couldn't afford one at the time. It saved $70,000 in 22, and it saved another $35,000 in 23. We also had an angel donor for $50,000 last year for benefiting the women's high performance teams, which is up from 2 contributions of angel donors for the same women's high performance team in 2022. That totaled $31,000. For the first time since we've had a working capital line, we didn't have to use it. Another sign of our financial health. And in 2022, we started receiving appreciated stock donations. That helps individuals that have stocks that want to contribute to the NWBA's cause. They can make a donation in stock. They don't have to pay the capital gains taxes on that stock donation. They get the full benefit of the current market day value, and we get their donation. Thankfully, as we've improved our cash flow, we haven't had to actually sell any of this stock. So we've left it invested. Currently, that total is just over $25,000. The actual amounts on the day of the transfers over the last 2 years was just a little over $20,000. Next slide. So the revenue increase from one year to the next. So in 2023, we also received the second year of a 2-year $100,000 grant from the Craig H. Nielsen Foundation. The reason that that's an increase is because in 2022, we hadn't spent any of the money. We got it late in the year. In 2023, we got the money late in the year and we didn't spend it again. We have until October of this year to spend the money, but there's been a change in some smart people out in the accounting world that dictate how we record things. And they feel it's better to record it by showing it as revenue with no expenses in 23. I 100% disagree with that. And showing it as in 2024, the way it'll impact our numbers is 0 revenue and $100,000 in expenses. I believe that's misleading. So whenever I present these numbers, I'm going to have that conversation with people, just like I did. So the $180,000 we made this year is actually only $80,000. Still progress. We continue our culture of oversight and accountability. And one example of that is if people are investing in you and you're doing a good job, they're going to invest in you even more. In 2023, we had $120,000 in special grants from the USOPC. This is things from the USOPC that go towards, they help the foundation that supports the whole organization, not necessarily just the high performance areas. Things like our business and compliance manager, outside accounting services, legal assistance, our communications area, Airbnb, VIK. This is an increase in 23. It was 120,000. In 22, it was only 89,000. Again, rewarding those that do a good job with you and being entrusted in their money. We're hoping to get $150,000 from this same grant in 2024. Most of that increase is going to be in Airbnb, VIK. So we utilize Bill.com and Gusto for payroll purposes. They allow us to not only separate controls, that's important in an accounting world, it makes it efficient for processing things, and it provides accountability. We've added a 401k option literally just this month, which is a small step in continuing to attract and retain the best talent in our industry. And I personally, very much so, look forward to expanded revenue in 2024. There's nothing a bean counter likes more than more money. So I'm going to turn it over to hearing more and learning more about that new revenue and other things about our organization with our CEO, David Schaefer.
Thank you very much, Mike. And again, on behalf of the staff, for sure, I would like to thank you so much for the time you give us and the intelligence in the area of financial perfectness. So anyway, as I started the meeting, I wanted to say thank you to everybody. I've now been here a little over a year and I've been welcomed with open arms. It's an awesome organization, an awesome group of people. I've gotten to meet a ton of you. I look forward to meeting every single one of you. So several months ago, the board of directors came together and sat down and said, we need to put together a new strategic plan. And it works perfectly to put together a 5-year strategic plan. Took us directly through 28 when we're going to be in LA. We're going to have a home Paralympics, which we really need to be in position to take as much advantage of as we possibly can. We'll have more eyeballs on our sport than we will have had in many, many years. And so a lot of the things in our strategic plan are focused on the growth of our sport and focused towards getting us in the best possible position for LA. So as you can see here, when we sat down with our strategic plan, the group came up with 5 key pillars. And the focus to be on the needs of the present, but also build on the needs of the present to get us to where we need to be in the future. Next slide. So the 5 strategic pillars that the board of directors decided on were awareness and revenue growth, organizational effectiveness, community impact, growing the game, and high performance excellence. Next slide. If we take these one at a time, awareness and revenue growth was broken down into 4 components. Brand awareness. Brand awareness, we decided, was develop and communicate a consistent brand identity that drives clear understanding of our mission and our value proposition. Sponsorship activation. Identify the best strategy to activate opportunities with new sponsors and expand engagement with existing sponsors to drive revenue and offset expense through usable and tangible value in kind. Donor commitment. We want to grow philanthropic support through new donors, existing donors, and committed board engagement by creating programs that connect individuals to our mission and support long-term giving to the organization, with a stress on long-term. And sport awareness. Create and push content across diverse media channels to increase visibility for our sport and drive growth for local teams. Next pillar. Organizational effectiveness was broken down into 4 subcategories. Organizational capacity. Develop and activate a prioritized staffing plan for critical roles to support the growth of team bandwidth and the successful implementation of our strategic priorities. Board makeup, engagement, and connection. Leverage the strength of our board and establish clear board responsibilities while continuing to ensure that the athlete voice is shared through representation and leadership, advancing the organization in key areas and building connections nationally and internationally with intentional focus toward Los Angeles. Team and program effectiveness. Develop resources and improve best practice sharing for new and established programs, aiding them in successfully delivering programming and elevating the experience of the individual members. And lastly, volunteer recruitment, development, and management. Acknowledge, support, engage, and thank our volunteers, and coordinate the volunteer network to be an effective extension of our operational capacity, while also developing a depth of expertise to be used in future leadership. Next pillar. Community impact, broken down into 4 categories. Impact and advocacy. Activate programs to support lifelong impact to our community and leverage the power of our sport to drive awareness for accessibility through society. A national mentor network. We want to build a network of partners who provide aid and resources directly to member quality of life improvements and activate a national mentor network, establishing certified mentors in specific areas, such as peer support, college skills, local program succession planning, etc. Resource toolkits. Develop easily accessible toolkits for our athletes, parents, and constituents that contain information related to member benefits, community information, and external resources. And formalize and enhance member financial assistance. Support member families by finding revenue growth and revenue sharing opportunities, along with more and better discount programs focused on reducing the obstacles to participation in our sport related to travel, equipment, and accessibility needs. Next pillar is growing the game. In growing the game, we have 3 categories. Sport growth. Grow our sport through opportunities, programs, and resources around women, military, minority groups, underrepresented regions, and the 3-on-3 game to drive inclusion and expansion of our sport. Strategic partnerships. Create and enhance mutually beneficial relationships with strategic partners to maximize exposure and investment in our sport. And game support functions. Increase recruitment and development of coaches, officials, classifiers, and team administrators at all levels of competition, and expand resources to these stakeholders to support long-term growth for our sport. And our final pillar is high performance excellence. Under high performance excellence, our 4 categories are build the bench, create and manage a robust talent identification program and pipeline for athletes and coaches, integrating U23 and U25 teams, and join in a collaborative effort with the men's and women's senior teams to increase the depth of talent, supporting continuous development. Competition opportunities. Increase participation and opportunities for exposure to nearly elite level athletes in international events. Provide off-year events for U23 and U25 teams, and seek opportunities to host elite level competitions in the United States. Athlete resources. Build out a sports medicine portfolio and expand resources in the areas of training and career transition to provide the next level of player support. And lastly, leveraging our Team USA athletes. Engage successful and experienced Team USA players for assistance in events, speaking, and fundraising to help show the world what our sport is. Next slide. So before I finish, I want to make sure to let you know that our entire strategic plan will be uploaded on our website for you to pour through the entire thing. You definitely don't want me to read the entire plan to you, but it's there for you to read to yourself at your leisure. So after we put together our 5-year strategic plan, which probably took, I'm going to say, 3 or 4 months from beginning to end, multiple meetings and multiple revisions, we sat down and said, okay, all the stuff that I just talked to you about is stuff that we want to make sure we accomplish in the next 5 years. So what do we want to focus on the next year? The next year being the year that we're in right now. So here is some of the priorities that we put together for the first year. Contract a development professional to assist in the growth of new revenue. This person, who will have an established industry relationship base, will focus their time on finding and engaging grant providers and large potential partnerships. We have contracted Catherine Rainey Norman, who's an experienced fundraiser in the NWBA space and also an Olympic speed skater. We're going to increase the impact of existing sponsor partners. We'll enhance our current associations, leading to greater financial commitment, more long-term agreements, and more robust partnerships. Create brand new partnerships and funding avenues. This will help to add much needed resources while also lessening the financial burdens on local teams and the NWBA. And I failed to mention, it may be obvious, the check marks are things that we're already well on our way to. Higher membership services position. This person will be responsible for the first level of service to membership, volunteers, and teams. They'll add bandwidth and service at both ends. They'll enhance response time and customer service to our membership, and they will activate on numerous strategic partnerships. We have recently hired Eric Rosinger. I'd like to welcome Eric. Eric is very new, and I'm sure you've seen his introduction in the newsletters. Eric has experience at USA Triathlon, and he has tons of data and analytics experience in a collegial background. We're very excited to have Eric. Probably Brandon's more excited than anybody to have Eric. Hold an international classification event. This will allow us to grow our pool of international classified athletes, have athletes with classification protests be addressed, and ensure the opportunity to put the best possible teams on the court. This will solidify our standing as a global leader within the international landscape. We had our first classification event a few months ago, early this year, and it was a huge success. I think we added, what, Brandon, I think it was 40 some newly classified athletes. The international classifiers, I believe told us it was the most athletes that had ever been classified at one time ever. So that was an awesome event. We will grow engagement with members and athletes. We'll continue to share team social media. I'm sure you noticed that all of your stuff that you guys put out, Matt Torres, our communications manager, is sharing that stuff all over the place. And we'll have NWBA staff members and board members visible at events around the country. Hopefully you've seen us and had time to talk to us at multiple events. We'll grow our women's and military divisions by 50% and 100% respectively. We see these as extremely important, untapped segments of our population, that growth of which will lead to the overall health of our organization in the long haul. We'll grow our pipeline of IWBF qualified classifiers and officials. This will help organizations' overall growth and health, and it will give us a greater domestic resource in growing our game, which will provide us more awareness nationally and internationally. We'll grow our pipeline, we'll implement a retention plan for volunteer leadership positions. This will enhance the overall consistency and quality of our organization, as well as lead to better retention across positions, and as mentioned before, help us find the next generation of NWBA leadership. We'll reduce the number of athletes lost after the junior division. This is one of the biggest area. This is the biggest areas of loss for athletes in our space, is when they age out of the junior division. Reducing the loss and keeping more juniors in our organization will reduce the number of athletes lost. It will aid in the transition of junior athletes to functional classification systems, and it will directly affect the overall number of athletes in our system and again help to ensure the health of the NWBA. Next slide. Membership dues. Okay, so this slide here you have all seen before. This slide was used in last year's, in this meeting last year. You can see back in 2018, the board sat down and put together a plan that over the course of 6 years, how dues costs would progress. Then COVID hit, the board sat down and readdressed these cost increases, decreases through this past season. Now, as we come out of that, go ahead and change to the next slide. What has been put together for the dues for this next upcoming season? Next slide. Okay, so you can see what's listed there is the previous slide, which is what things were changed to by the board in 2020. And in yellow is what we were aiming towards for this upcoming season. You can see for adults, there's no increase from 23, and it's equal to the original plan that was put together. Juniors, there is an increase from 23, the first increase in 7+ years. Non-athletes, there's an increase from 23, the first increase in 5 years. Teams, there's no increase from 23, and it's equal to the originally planned number. And sanctions is less than 23 and less than the planned number if submitted during early registration period. Sanctions, late sanctions will be $75, but it'll be $50 if done. Is it 2 months ahead, Brandon? Yeah.
Yep.
I believe that is my last slide, and I believe the next slide is Q&A. Is that correct? Oh, I do have one more slide. Dates for early registration. Team early registration begins July 16th. Individual early registration begins August 1st. Now I know that's my last slide. So I believe now it's just an open floor for any questions anyone might have. And that doesn't have to be just on what I have to say. It can be on anything that anyone's talked about or anything that no one's talked about.
David,
Margaret?
I know I'm new, but since nobody jumped in, I just had a question in terms of your growth. I like what you presented. I like what everybody presented, actually, what I'm seeing. What is your plan for growing the college division? You talked a lot about how you're losing juniors, but you didn't, and you talked about growing women in military. Is that part of your plan and you just didn't talk about it, or?
Yes, it is part of the plan, and yes, I didn't talk about it. I believe, actually, Brandon, could you speak to a couple of Brandon's already been in conversations with other college programs over the last few months.
Yeah, I'll take that one. Yeah, we're always trying to grow that division. I know, for instance, for anyone that was at the Junior Nationals, they saw Penn State University was there and looking to start a program. I've been talking with them since the fall. And there's a number of other prospective schools. And we're also going to dust off some of the previous great work done by the divisional leadership on some other schools previously that were looking at what they're programming, and kind of help onboard them. Margaret, is like, we have to put that part of those toolkits of what's the roadmap of, starting a program. And I get it. It looks different on every college or university campus. And what department it lives in, how they're funded, and all of that. However, we can kind of tick and tie and help them understand some of the nuances in our sport, and hopefully help reduce some of the barriers with equipment and other things. And over time, hopefully, also afford new opportunities with, if there's funding support, other access that we can create for them. But really, some of those discussions just need to be revitalized from previous leadership, and see where we can hopefully springboard a couple of those in the waiting in the wings to full-fledged programs. So
Thanks.
yeah.
Did that honestly, did that answer your question, Margaret, or?
I mean, I guess my question is what specifically is going to be done, but I don't know that this is the time or the place for that conversation. But it is something that obviously I will be bringing, assuming my unopposed run is approved, to the table, which, so.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. Dan, you had your hand up?
I did. Thanks, David. First off, I just want to thank the membership. It's been an honor and a privilege to serve this organization for almost 30 years, starting off with division committees and working my way to the board. But with that being said, I think as an organization, as I'm thinking about my own transition, I feel like our organization leans heavily for our history, for our very start. And that presentation on Marv was fantastic. But we've got decades of people who have served this organization, and we're losing those stories. We're losing that history. I mean, you could even go as far as even to 2010s that we're not really recording that. And I'm just as guilty as anyone. I just think it's one of those things at one of those times that it's easy to reflect upon 76 years ago as the beginning, because it's already written, it's done. We just have to I would like us to spend the time as we continue to lose people, unfortunately, through attrition and age, that we take those stories and we put it down on paper, because our history is rich and it predates the NBA. It predates Special Olympics, who are really considered as organizations the gold standard. So, to me, it's important that we respect that, and we have our own culture within, and the NWBA is the foundation of that culture of the Paralympic movement. So, just a responsibility, and if there's some way I can help, I'm phone call away.
Oh, don't be ready. Your phone will be ringing. Any other questions or comments?
Keith has one in the chat. I can read it. It says, how about multiple team discounts? So if we have multiple teams for nationals this year, we did a great job of giving discounts. Is that going to be the same for registration?
I'll take this one. Yeah, Keith. So I know we shared the 24-25 membership dues. I know that from the staff standpoint, when we presented those to the board, we also shared with the board that we would come back with a full-on analysis of our membership dues structure, similar to what we did in 2016, 17, 18. And when we rolled out a multi-year dues structure. And so that can be something that we can consider in our proposal when we go back to the board. But it is something board discussed in January, and the staff is now, it's in our hands to bring back to them. So, and we're committed to hopefully communicating that earlier down the road, and continue to make sure that we're sharing out the news before a season started. So, no, appreciate the suggestion, Keith, and we'll definitely keep it top of mind as we come up with a proposal.
I have a question about retention. So Margaret kind of touched on it and you guys touched on it, is getting the juniors to the adult. We're at the end of the season. This is the perfect time to start working on retaining people before next season starts. What is the plan to do that? Because like right now is the time we should be acting on it.
Yeah, no, good question, Dar. I think probably the first thing I would say is we're definitely going to need some help from not only division leadership and team reps, but internally, some understanding that the few individuals definitely leading this charge. One of them, Eric, is only a couple weeks into his role, but I know with my guidance and Eric and I and working with those leadership and team reps is connecting the dots and seeing, all right, and I may have already even sent this already over to Eric as, hey, here's our junior athletes that are not going to college or don't have commits, and then we're going to shorten down that list. And then do we have an outreach going out to those athletes and, hey, where are you going to school, or where are you going to be next year, and how can we connect you with a women's division team, adult division team, and or just keep you involved. So 100% retention of juniors critical, and definitely I hear you loud and clear, Dar. The time is now, because it's a window of like now and the next 2-3 months is when basically people are already thinking about, oh, who am I playing for next season? So.
Hey, Brandon, let me jump in real quickly here, just in case there's individuals who missed the slide several slides ago announcing that we were closing the voting on the 10 bylaw proposals and the confirmation for the board position. Please, if you voted but your window is still open and you haven't hit submit, please go ahead and do that, because we are finished voting within the next minute.
Awesome. I think someone else has their hand up.
Yeah, Parnes. Hey, Parnes, did you have something to add?
Yes, I did want to address the junior athlete situation where they are looking for adult teams. One of the things that the adult division would like to do is partner with the junior division, finding out which athletes are going to age out of the junior division and what region they're in, and we can help those athletes find a team that's close to them. So even if we just get started with a list of names and where they're at, we would be happy to help.
Awesome. Parnes, and I think I saw that on an agenda of yours.
Yes, yeah, we actually I spoke with Mike Baller about this last year. So we are really interested in doing this and actually trying to create some sort of a celebratory situation where we actually have the athletes consider this as part of their, if for lack of a better word, draft into the adult division.
That's awesome. Parnes, we will reach out in the next couple of days and set up an initial conversation on this.
Sounds good.
Next, is Lee.
Hello.
Hey, Lee.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Hey, just a question for you, David. Just wondering your thoughts on things. I've seen you around all year at certain events, adult nationals, women's, and etc. But I didn't see you at the junior nationals. Are you planning on attending that next year, or what is your plans, and what is your overall view of what you acknowledged this year as our new CEO?
Well, to the first question, yes, I'm definitely planning on attending next year. This year, I was with a group at the women's Final Four. It was our second year. First year, last year, Darlene put together, and they were very happy to have us again this year. And so we had Team USA versus College All-Stars played during halftime of the Division I National Championship game. So I was there for that. It was the same weekend. Next year, I will definitely be at juniors. As to your second question, the year has been amazing. Whatever I was told by the board and the selection committee when I came in about the membership and our athletes and the volunteers and everyone that holds this organization together, it's 10 times more and 10 times better than what I thought. And I've been in the nonprofit world for a while. I've worked in a lot of places where you have a lot of giving people, selfless people, and I still have never seen an organization like this one where people volunteer their time, a ton of their time, for decades. People get into the organization. You know, there may be people that get into wheelchair basketball because they have a specific connection. You know, they have a child that takes part, or they know someone that takes part, and then that child that got them into wheelchair basketball is now 37 years old, and that person is still just as involved as they ever were. This organization, I can see it brings people in and holds on to them, and they don't want to leave. And I have made so many new friends, and I've met a lot of people, and I hope to meet a lot more. And I am super proud to be part of this organization.
Thank you.
And I'm proud to know you, Lee.
Well, you know, I'm a hard person not to know.
Next was Mike.
Yeah, I had just a quick comment on the recruiting and transitioning from the junior division to the adult division. Whether it comes from a junior division coach or an adult division coach, no matter what we do at the NWBA, the national level, there's nothing that moves the needle more than a personal invitation to something. So if you're their junior coach, reach out and ask them what their plans are for the next year. They may not think that they're welcome on that adult team. Or if if you have a junior team that doesn't reach out like that, then as an adult team, get in contact with the office, find out maybe who those people are. But those personal invitations are what is probably going to move that person to stay involved in our sport. And that, honestly, for the junior teams, it starts earlier than their senior year. It's like, hey, what are you going to do after college? What are you going to do after high school? And it doesn't necessarily mean that it might be a trade school. They don't have to play wheelchair basketball in college to stay a part of our family forever, which is my goal. So just food for thought.
If we don't have any more questions or comments, I believe it's up Doug next to tell us how the voting went.
There was one more comment. It's from Dan about educating our junior families about the transition to adults. And Dan, it's a great one where it's funny. I was just having a discussion during nationals about doing the junior to college meeting, but that being so focused on the intercollegiate division, actually, I was talking with some people about, well, junior to anywhere meeting. And so really where we host something and it isn't so focused on the intercollegiate division, though that's a vital piece and a great transition for a lot of our juniors, but them onto a women's division team or adult division team, like, can be all encompassing within that webinar. And I know we've done them so focused on college. I envision after that discussion, that's probably what our next one will be, and mapping that out in a condensed manner where someone can understand, hey, what's the best way to navigate or self-serve on my own. So, oh, someone raised their hand.
I did, because there's a lot of people having trouble typing in the chat. Teams isn't working, so they're texting me. So now I'm just going to share the wealth of everybody's text to me. A question is if somebody does adult camps, is there any like ways for, do you guys have any grants or any money to help support an adult camp? Or I guess like the question from a member, that was one of the questions. And then to elaborate even more is, as a piece of membership, like if we want to do officials training or classification training, is there any funding that, since that was one of your strategic plans, that have been set aside for those organizations that are doing more to like host classification clinics, officials clinics, camps for adults, et cetera?
That's one of the many things on the list of priorities to gather funds for those things. We're out soliciting new partners daily for exactly that reason.
One other tidbit is, remember, there's some of the D3 money that's available that we've always talked about. Brandon can potentially talk about the idea of the form for application for the money and stuff like that.
Yeah, just to
Mark.
add to that, Mark or Parnes, I don't know if you want to jump in, but what Mark's alluding to for anyone is Division III has a set aside restricted number of dollars that they've supported individuals' development or teams in the past. So that's specifically to the adult division, but I think other question over here, definitely, Darlene was asking, hey, is there funding for the athletes in their attendance at events, and how we can continue to maximize the benefits or the ROI that members are getting from our organization. And so us coming up with additional funding, and it's not just a funding to keep the lights on here at the office or pay Brandon's, it's how do we support members in achieving their desire to stay active within the NWBA, playing, coaching, administering. And so we need to unlock funds to help them do that. So.
Okay, so I see on our slide we're at voting results, and we have had the opportunity now to tabulate them. So I will announce that Margaret Strand has been elected to the open board of directors position, and also each of the 10 bylaw amendment proposals passed with at least 2/3 majority vote.
That's great. Thank you very much, Doug. One last chance. Anyone have any more questions or comments before we say good evening?
Can you hear me?
I hear you.
Okay. I got one question. With your presentation and Brandon's presentation about the Nationals and the brand of basketball and the excellence of basketball, are you, as a committee, looking to get our brand of basketball out there in, possibly a story on ESPN or something like that? Because I think we have an excellent product. All the championship games are at the very highest level, and of course, some of our semifinal games were some of the best games that I've seen in a long time, and I've been in this game for 47 years. And we need to get some, take some sort of step to try to get the game out there on a ESPN channel and what have you. So I guess that's my question. Are we looking to proceed or at least attempt to do something like that?
The answer is yes. The answer is a lot of us, I think, completely agree with everything you just said. And the answer is yes. I have had multiple conversations with ESPN and NBC and intermediaries that do the recording for ESPN and NBC. And that again is one of the things in our strategic plan, that we have every desire that that's where we're going to get. And we're going to use LA as our leverage. One of the things that NBC is talking about right now that I'll be talking to some of you more about is this year while we're in Paris, when I was talking to them, they're going to talk peeking into some of our watch parties. And it's not highlighting our games as much as it's highlighting our fandom for people that are watching our game. But yes, we are knocking down the doors for everybody. I'm telling them, you can put me on ESPN The Ocho. You can put me on ESPN.com. Start me anywhere, just so I can say ESPN. Put me on Peacock. So we are going to get there, and certainly before LA, hopefully in the next 18 months.
Well, thank you so much. And if you need any assistance, I'm here for you.
Thank you.
And David, I'll jump in there. One historic thing to add is the amount of live stream games we had in Richmond, which if you have been peeking around on our YouTube page, they're starting to get uploaded as an edited version onto YouTube. So if you go on there, you can check those out. So super exciting that we have more of that video archived and available. So patience a little on some of it because it does take some time on some of the editing, but do appreciate that. And then I think we had a couple more comments in the chat. I'll take the first one, David. Christy with Mary Freebed was asking dates for next year, and to answer that, still working through all of the dates of the National Championship Series and working through our procedures of national championships dates and locations per our policies and procedures must be approved by the board of directors. And so we have a few things and a few other events to secure host sites for, and we're looking though to announce those and stay with our previous year's commitment, Christy, of announcing that prior to registration opening. So hopefully we can have a short response for you here in a very short time, but I don't have one today to share. And then the next one, I think, Dan, you were just commenting on additional teams, and that is one of the things within the strategic plan is talking about and us targeting specific markets where we either don't have certain levels of play represented, i.e. there's a junior team, but there's no adult team, or there's an adult team and there's no junior team, and or major metropolitan areas that are lack of teams right now. We need to start, as you're saying in that comment, Dan, in a different way, connecting the dots of our teams so they have less distance to travel, and our programming or our great sport is offered in a lot more accessible, available in communities. So we're going to take a very, very intentional approach on where are our hotbeds, but where are those vacancies around the US. And so, and how can we bring programs to fruition in those spaces? So.
Parnes, did you have something else? I thought I saw you raise your hand.
Yeah, I was actually just trying to react to something and hit the hand raising by mistake. So I won't prolong your meeting anymore, but just congratulations to the staff and board of directors on a wonderful season.
And thank you very much. And I thank you too. It'll be like the 5th time it's been said in this call, and Needs to be said 5,000 more, but thank you to everyone that gives of their time and gives of their talents. There's a lot of people on this call that spend a whole lot of time helping us with this organization, helping individuals within this organization, helping teams, helping entire divisions. Thank you very, very much. Please know that when it's not said, you are extremely appreciated. Thank you very much. And thank you all for being here this evening. And if no one has anything else, it'll be time to say goodnight. And welcome to the board, Margaret.
Thank you. Sorry, I didn't raise my hand earlier.
We'll let it slide this time, Margaret.
Thanks. Now I know how
Thanks,
it goes
guys.
here.
That's right. Thanks, David.
Thanks,
Brandon, and
everybody.
staff. Great
Good
job
job.
this year.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great night.
Hello, Mark Shepard. Good seeing you. Take care, everybody.
Good night.
Be safe.